Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. As I was preparing to click record button before starting this video for you, I took a moment to pause and think about how you might perceive and receive this video, since after what took place or what was announced on Saturday from the White House by the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, and that is the successful attack on three nuclear sites in Iran. Most of you, if not all of you, but definitely majority of you, already made up your mind on whose side you are at, who is good, who is bad, who is evil, and who is saint. And here I come with my probably different approach that you might expect, or maybe something that you actually expect. After watching President Trump's speech, that was hours later due to the time difference, as you know, I am in Poland, and that was in the US, of course. After watching this, I will share with you my first thoughts, what I noticed. And you know, that may be a surprising thing to some of you, because you say facts are facts and that's what matters. For a very strange reason, my first impression was that whatever was reported, informed, announced is something that took place while back, as if it wasn't as latest attack as it was mentioned. I know I'm probably losing some of you now what I'm saying. I'm just sharing with you my very sincerely, my very authentic, real approach and reactions to that information. I didn't like what I was hearing, but in a way I felt as if that is already old news, if that makes sense. I was also very, very closely watching the body language of all four people, that is Trump, J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, and Pete Hegseth. And watching Trump speak was giving me an impression that there was sadness behind it, and there was sense of strength performed in spite of sadness. I've also listened to what he said just before the end of that speech, and that is this.
Tomorrow, General Kane, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth will have a press conference at 8 a.m. at the Pentagon. And I want to just thank everybody, and in particular, God. I want to just say we love you, God, and we love our great military. Protect them. God, protect them. God bless the military. Just say we love you, God, and we love our great military. Protect them.
I played this twice or three times for you because I saw him leaning towards when he said God. There was a moment of recognizing who is in charge. It's a moment of faith, all right? I know now you're taking sides, but I'm expressing to you, and I hope you're still with me, my opinion about what is taking place right now. And I'm actually glad that I am not an expert, because I am not influenced by past experiences or other things that could already shape my approach and my way of thinking of seeing what the future holds that might be completely different than what has been already experienced. So I approach it with a different mind, the mind that is not an expert mind, but is intuitive mind and is my own perception of those events. I don't think I ever heard any president to say, "We love you, God." I haven't heard all the speeches, but that to me was interesting moment, very interesting, very different. So that took place. Like I told you, I felt as if already an old news. And what really struck me with asking myself how I feel about it. Do I like that there have been 3 attacks on the nuclear sites in Iran? No. And the deeper we go into this video, the more I will be telling you what I think might be the case at this moment. But I felt at peace in a way. I didn't feel any danger, any threat. And I know that ultimately that's what whoever they are, they want. They want to create this enormous tension, people to be afraid, terrified what the future holds. And yes, I am aware that there might be attacks on US bases in Syria and Iraq, and there are sleeper cells, as they call it, in United States who apparently have been called into action against US, but they have been calling United States dead to America for a long time, okay? I also want to say, before I play you an interview with Marco Rubio from yesterday, the first interview that was given after that announcement, I want to say that I always question every side, okay? So it seems to me that everyone, well, I shouldn't say everyone. It seems to me that a lot of people now are saying that Iran is a good guy and they should not be treated like this. And I don't think any country should be, you know, in situation where they are having 3 attacks on the country, nuclear facilities. But then why there are nuclear facilities? So if most of the countries around this country don't want this country to have those nuclear facilities, why, if this is not okay, so now it's not okay when they are removing those facilities, right? Which again, I'm not saying I say this is cool, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is this really such a good place, Iran? Is this leadership really so good that people are really so happy in that country that all of a sudden it's like a really cool place to be? If this is the case, I just want to know, like, why were people, and genuine question, why were people leaving Iran? Is there anyone oppressed in Iran or not? Just asking sincere questions, because there is propaganda on both sides, and I know that it's very easy to get played and tricked, and you cannot really go there and verify yourself, right? I mean, you can try, you can go there as a tourist probably and see if it's dangerous or it's clean and everything, but then you have to really live there in order to experience the rules and the regulations and how free you really are, right? So that is my question here. Now, that the United States have been doing things that are, and I say United States, we know it's a group of people who control the governments all around the world, okay? I should not say United States, I should say those who influence the government. They were doing nefarious things for a long time. We know this. But maybe there is a different game here being played. And a lot of people are still making the judgment based on the past experiences. So a lot of people are saying, how is this even possible that Trump could do it without congressional approval, right? But he does not need that approval to exercise military strikes. Now, is this a war? It's not declared as a war, because in order for it to be, if it escalates, there is a high chance it will go to Congress, and Congress will decide if US goes into war or not. I also look at it that the biggest danger is not really from the outside. Like I said a few times, the biggest danger is from within. So the biggest danger is probably the threat of the terrorists who might be activated within the United States. And I know many of you are afraid of it, and I understand that. But there is another side to it. Just think about it for a moment. If that takes place, and I'm really free-flowing with my thinking now, guys. If this takes place and some of those people will be activated and they will be trying to create some dangerous situations, let's put it this way, they will be also exposing themselves, at least to some extent, right? Depending what kind of event they want to create. So there is another opportunity of capturing those people. Otherwise, it will take longer. You will not even know where they are. This is just my way of thinking. So is there a danger? Yes, there's always a danger. There also could be a danger if nothing would take place. And again, I'm not justifying attack on those 3 nuclear facilities. I'm just saying there also could be a danger that attack on those 3 nuclear facilities would not take place. So maybe there would be a different danger in the future. Maybe. By the way, some of those experts that probably you're still listening to, they were talking about it as well, not that long time ago, agreeing that Iran should not have nuclear weapons. So there has to be something in it, don't you think? Anyway, 12 minutes of my talk. I will say this. This is the time, and now we go to the videos that I prepared for you and the articles and how the world responds and what Russia says and etc. All right, but I approach it with very calm mind. I'm not reactive, and this is what actually takes place with majority of people. They react right away. This is the fight and flight activation in your brain. You have to know exactly on what side you stand. You don't give it time to analyze this a little bit. You don't go within, meaning you kind of disconnect from it, at least for some time, to clear your mind, to go into nature, to be around trees, take a walk, be on the beach, look at the sky, and just calm your nervous system down to then have more clarity before you make opinions. People are very quick to judge, and people are very quick to take sides, and that's why they are so easy to be manipulated. Doesn't matter what side, because the wind blows this way, they go there. The other way, they go there. So let me show you what I prepared for you today. I think we are witnessing a show. It's a performance in a way, but I will present it to you in a more 3-dimensional way that most of you probably will be able to understand. But I have a lot of viewers who think on a different timeline and on a different level of human consciousness and awareness. So first, we're gonna go to a video that came on my Instagram. I just came across it, as if universe wanted me to see. There is this lady, very funny lady, American lady, who is giving in the most simple way, in a nutshell, as she says, a description of what is taking place in regards to Trump doing what he did, that was on his order, and what led to it, and how the situation looks like at this moment. It's a very funny video, but it's a pretty cool explanation of things. So I hope you will watch it all the way, and then we go to Marco Rubio, then we go to Dmitry Medvedev, then we go how Europe stands, what country supports Israel, what country supports Iran. I show you this on the map. And let's see what else I have, everyone. I think that's, oh, I have one more comment from also American citizen about this situation. So hope you're okay with my ramble, 15 minutes ramble, but things are as they are. So there is a lot to unpack. All right, let me take you to my Instagram. I'm going to mute myself now, everyone. Just give me a moment. And let's take a listen to this very funny lady, but she is on point.
All right. I did the serious video about what's going on in Iran, but now I'm finna break it down in a nutshell of what happened. All right. Okay. So from the beginning, well, somewhere from the beginning. All right. Netanyahu, I call him Yahoo. That's the man over there in Israel, right? He kept saying, hey, Iran got nukes and I'm going to go and hit their ass up because they got nukes and they keep saying they're going to wipe us off the map. So I'm going to just hit his ass first. Donald Trump said, okay, let me tell you what's going to happen. All right, I'm going to send my folks over there. I'm going to send Tulsi Gabbard over there and she going to see if they got nukes. So she went over there with her intelligence team in March and she said, hey, it looked like they ain't got no nukes. And Trump said, all right, cool. That's fine. They ain't got no nukes. He done went and told Yahoo, listen. She went over there and checked. Rock and roller Ayatollah ain't got no nukes. She done went and checked. So I'm gonna need for y'all to chill out. And like my plan was, is peace and we all finna make some bread. Well, Yahoo just wasn't satisfied with that shit because he war hungry. Looked like he want to stay in power forever. And as long as they at war, he gonna keep his seat. So he was like, nah, I know they got some nukes. And I'm finna go over there and strike their ass. Trump was like, hey, player, don't do that. We want peace. Well, Ayatollah Khomeini said, rock and roller Ayatollah, he said, death to America. Trump said, look, I already told you I ain't in that shit. I'm not sending Israel no money. I'm not sending them no weapons. I'm just not in that shit. Leave America out of this. We ain't fucking with nobody. We want peace over here, right? All right, they get into it. Israel go and bomb their ass, and I'm talking about bomb their ass, right? So rock and roll Ayatollah was like, oh shit, oh this how we playing? All right, everybody finna feel it. Donald Trump said, hey, who the fuck is everybody? I just told you, America's not in it. We don't want nothing to do with this player. I don't know how many times I got to tell you, we want peace. We really want y'all to shake hands, but since y'all on that gangster shit, we just gonna bow out gracefully. They said that shit again, death to America. Everybody gonna feel it, sending out all them threats. So DJT ain't finna take that shit laying down because he always been a G, uppercase G at that. So Trump was like, all right, bet. I'm gonna see what's gonna happen in 2 weeks, and then in 2 weeks, if we ain't broke a peace, then we gonna figure something out. Well, behind the scenes, DJT was like, well, I done found out you got 3 sites where you could have been making nukes. And so since you still talking big shit, big game player, I'm finna send some shit over there and we just gonna get rid of that shit where you could have been making nukes, all right? Boom. So he go and send 3 strikes. He just obliterated 3 nuclear sites over there in Iran. And when I say nuclear sites, I'm talking about where they could have been making bombs underground, right? So what they drop could go through like, I think 20 feet of concrete, you know, like the big shits, right? So they just went over there and they obliterated 3 nuclear sites. So Trump basically, from what I can see, is saying, all right, what you thought they had, I done went and took that shit away. Now you ain't got no reason to keep going over there and fucking with them. I told you I wasn't finna get rid of their supreme leader, rock and roller Ayatollah. He's still over there. And as for you, rock and roller Ayatollah, keep our name out your motherfucking mouth like I told you from the beginning. That's it in a nutshell. All right, I did the series.
So I hope you were able to understand the plot, because she presented it in an actually pretty cool way. Now let me take you after that to that interview that Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State of the United States, gave yesterday. Let me play it. Let's take a listen.
Good morning. Today, breaking news, an historic day for the United States, Israel, and the world. The U.S. bombs Iran. The commander-in-chief, President Donald Trump, authorizing the U.S. military interview since the U.S. action is the Secretary of State of America, Secretary Marco Rubio. Mr. Secretary, thank you for being here. Are we now at war with Iran?
No, we're not. This is not a war against Iran. This is very simple. 67 days ago, the president of the United States sent the Iranians a letter, and it said, you're not going to have nuclear weapons. You're not going to have a militarized nuclear program. Let's negotiate. I want to do this diplomatically. I want to do this peacefully. They tried to play him along the way they've played every American president for the last 35 years. And, the president told them, if we don't get a deal, which is what he wanted, then I'll have to handle it differently. And that's what he did last night. He handled it differently. But that was an Iranian choice. We didn't make that choice. They did. By playing games with Donald Trump, they made a huge mistake. And President Trump acted last night. And I think the world today is safer and more stable than it was 24 hours ago. And a bunch of these countries putting out statements condemning us. Privately, they all agree with us that this needed to be done. They got to do what they got to do for, their own public relations purposes. But the only people in the world that are unhappy about what happened in Iran last night is the regime in Iran.
Have you heard from anyone in Iran, and are you expecting retaliation?
Well, if they retaliate, it'll be the worst mistake they've ever made. Look, we can fly in and out of Iran at will. We went in last night. The president sent our military forces from halfway across the world, went in, conducted this operation, left. Not a shot was fired against us. They didn't even know what had happened. By the time we left, the planes were out of their airspace before they finally started realizing they'd been hit. So it would be a terrible mistake if Iran retaliates. But that's not our goal. We are not declaring war on Iran. We're not looking for war on Iran. But if they attack us, then I think we have capabilities they haven't even seen yet. It would be a terrible mistake on their part. And frankly, it's not what we hope for or wish. What we want now is to ensure that Iran never has nuclear weapons. If what they want is a civil nuclear program where they have power plants like a lot of other countries in the world have, they can do that. That's the deal that's been offered to them. They rejected it. They played us. They tried to play us, I should say. They wouldn't respond to our offers. They disappeared for 10 days. And now, the president had to take action as a response.
And the response included strategic ambiguity. Can you walk us through the plan in terms of how it was deceptive, not allowing the Iranians to understand what was really taking place?
Well, ultimately, when we do these things, it's because we care about the safety and security of our troops, of our airmen, and all those who are supporting these missions. So, obviously, the element of surprise is important in military tactics. In this particular, now, I don't think the Iranians or anyone should have been under any mystery. The president said very clearly, we have 60 days to make progress on a deal, and if we don't, I'm going to deal with it differently. But in terms of what people call deception and surprise and things of this nature, the core of that is not the success. The mission was going to be successful no matter what. The core of that was protecting our servicemen and women who are in harm's way and conducting that mission. That's the most important part. And they went in, they did what they needed to do with precision and skill that no other military in the world can do. And they left. And they were well outside of Iranian airspace before the regime even realized what had happened. And that was the goal here, and that was achieved. These planes came from halfway across the world, and no one saw them coming. And that's a huge credit to Pete Hegseth and General Kane and General Kurilla and obviously our commander-in-chief for pulling that off.
Well, the president said in a post recently that he knows where the supreme leader is hiding. But that he was not ready to take him out yet. What can you tell us about your expectations with regard to regime change in Iran?
Well, that's certainly not the goal of what we're working on here. The goal is stated very clearly in a letter the president sent the supreme leader about 67 days ago. And in a letter, he said, you're not going to have a nuclear weapon. Let's negotiate peacefully a solution. We can make a really good deal that's good for Iran, good for America, good for the world. If you don't, however, then I'm going to have to deal with this differently. The Iranians didn't like the letter. They didn't respond to it. They ultimately entered into fake negotiations and tried to play him along. In essence, they thought they could do with President Trump what they've done with presidents in the past and get away with it. And they found out last night that they can't. And the world found out last night that you can't. And that's important, not just on this issue, but for so many other issues happening around the world. I think that what we are seeing is that this is a president that tells you what he's going to do, and then he does it. And I think that to a lot of people, including the Iranian regime, is shocking.
What are your expectations in terms of Iran's nuclear capabilities today?
Well, they're certainly degraded. Look, at the end of the day, if Iran is committed to becoming a nuclear weapons power, I do think it puts the regime at risk. I really do. I think it would be the end of the regime if they tried to do that. It's certainly been set back from a technical standpoint, not just due to what we did last night, but obviously the Israelis have done incredible work in advance as well. But ultimately, they have to make a decision. It's a very simple decision. If what they want is nuclear reactors so they can have electricity, there are so many other countries in the world that do that, and they don't have to enrich their own uranium. They can do that. But if what they want is a secret program buried in the mountain where no one can see it and inspectors can only come when they say they can come, if that's what they want, then they're going to have big problems, because this is a dangerous, violent, radical regime. Not the Iranian people. We have no problem. We didn't hit Iranian people last night. We hit nuclear facilities. And if what they want is some secret program that looks nothing like the civil nuclear programs around the world, it looks a lot like you're trying to build a bomb, they're going to continue to have problems, not just with us, but with many other countries in the world.
Problems like what? What do you mean?
Like the problems they're facing right now. Listen, why do we have bases in Saudi Arabia and Kuwait and Qatar and UAE? All of those bases are there to help protect those countries from Iran. Why did Hezbollah exist? Because of Iran. What does Hamas exist? Because of Iran. How do the Houthis exist? Because of Iran. Who built the IEDs that maimed and killed American soldiers in Iraq? Iran. They're behind every problem in this region. They are the sole source of instability in the entire Middle East, and the world's been paying a price for this for 40-something years. Imagine those people having a nuclear weapon, just one nuclear weapon, or even the capability to being on the threshold of having a nuclear weapon. That's what the world was facing. That is unacceptable. President Trump did the world a favor last night, and now Iran should sort of wake up. The Iranian regime should wake up and say, okay, if we really want nuclear energy in our country, there's a way to do it. That offer's still there. We're prepared to talk to them tomorrow and start working on that. Steve Witkoff has traveled extensively around the world trying to reach that deal with them, but they play too many games. They play way too many games, and now they found out.
The president has said many times no nuclear weapons, but the ultimate goal also happens to be no biological weapons, chemicals, no drones, no proxy warfare. Do you believe that the Iranians will follow that and you'll achieve the ultimate goal of success here, long term?
Well, I don't know what they're going to decide to do next. If they're being rational, I think they realize, if what they want is a country that has a nuclear energy program, they can have that. I mean, many countries around the world, I don't like the regime, but we're not into the regime change business here. We're into the safety and security of the United States business. So that's a choice they'll have to make. I hope they're being rational in their decision making. But I think the most important thing I hope they realize is the game is up. Okay, they have played the world for 40-something years with these nuclear talks and this, delaying things. They got a crazy deal out of John Kerry when he was Secretary of State under the Obama administration, where they got billions of dollars. And by the way, agreed to something that allowed them to continue to build their missile capacity and sponsor terrorism. They've been playing the world for 40-something years. They're not going to play President Trump. And they found out last night that when he says he's going to do something, he'll do it. And he doesn't want to do it. It's not his first choice. But it's the only choice. That's the only choice the Iranian regime left us, because they play too many games. They use diplomacy to hide behind and obfuscate and think they can buy themselves time. They think they're cute. They're not cute. And they're not going to get away with this stuff. Not under President Trump.
The Europeans have been feckless pretty much throughout this conflict in the last several weeks. What are your expectations for our partners and allies in Europe?
Well, look, I think the Europeans, particularly the Germans, the French, and the Brits, have made very clear that Iran cannot have nuclear weapons. In fact, I think the French, for the first time, have kind of leaned forward even more and said they can't even have an enrichment capability. There are existing sanctions under the old JCPOA that we're no longer a part of, but they remain a part of. Iran is in complete violation. Okay, and so those three countries have to make a decision, I know later than October of this year, whether to put sanctions back on Iran, snap them back. And we encourage them to continue to press them on that front, because that's another set of pressure. So, obviously, these are allies and partners we work with closely on a bunch of issues around the world. And I think they have in their hands a very powerful piece of leverage on the Iranian regime, which is the snapback provisions under the previous JCPOA. And I think so far they've been very tough and strong on that, and we encourage them to continue to do so and to continue to tell the Iranians, the Iranian regime. I keep saying Iranian regime because it's not the people we have a quarrel with. The Iranian regime, they've consistently messaged them, and we're grateful for it, that the solution to this problem is negotiate directly with the Americans. That's another thing. They don't even talk to us directly. We always have to have a middleman. They want to pass messages and notes like we're in third grade. We're not doing that anymore. Direct negotiations. Let's talk about how we peacefully resolve this problem. The Europeans have pressured them on that point, and we encourage them to continue to do so and are grateful that they've been doing that so far.
What about our allies in the Middle East right now? Interesting to note that we have not heard from any of the proxies of Iran. No comment from the Iranians so far. No comment from Hezbollah or the Houthis. What are your reactions there, as well as our allies in the Middle East? President Trump, of course, using his first trip internationally to go and strengthen relations with our friends in the Middle East.
Well, we made clear that any of these proxies attack America, we're not only going to deal with the proxies, but we're also going to pin it on Iran. We know who's behind these. That's another thing they do. They create these little groups like the Shia militias in Iraq and Syria, and then they hide behind them and pretend it's not them. We know it's them, including the Houthis, by the way. So Iran will be held responsible for the actions of these groups. In terms of the other countries in the region, look, I think that we've worked very cooperatively with them. The president just had a great visit to Saudi Arabia, to the UAE, and to Qatar. Very productive. But I just ask and remind everybody, the only reason we have U.S. bases in the region, the only reason we have an air base in Qatar, an air base in UAE, an air base in Saudi Arabia, is because they are afraid that Iran will attack them. And they want us there to help defend them. And so, if Iran wasn't a threat, we wouldn't need those bases there. So these countries fully recognize the threat that Iran poses. That's why they want us there to help defend their oil fields and their infrastructure, or help them defend themselves. And if the Iranian regime was no longer a threat, we wouldn't need to have any of these bases in the region. We wouldn't need to have any American service people in the region. But that's the state of affairs right now. So these countries understand what Iran is and what the regime is, and they get it. They understand it.
How long have these plans been in place to take out the nuclear facilities?
Well, the president makes the ultimate decision, and look, in terms of plans, I mean, we have all sorts of contingency plans for all sorts of possible strikes all over the world. Once the president says, okay, work up options for me, they obviously go back and, refine those. And then there are multiple points along the way in which the president has decisions to make about go or no go. And it really comes right up to 10 minutes before the bombs are actually dropped. So the president retains, as commander-in-chief, full control of these operations. But we have incredibly capable military people in our country. The operation yesterday was extraordinary, really extraordinary. Obviously, there are elements of it that will not ever be publicly shared, but suffice it to say that there is no country in the world that can do what the United States did last night through our incredible military led by our commander-in-chief. And I think a lot of credit goes out to Pete Hegseth, our defense secretary, did a phenomenal job of managing this process. And obviously, all the way down to the airmen and others who conducted this operation. It was flawless. It was perfect. It was executed with extraordinary skill, and I think demonstrates the capabilities we have, which no other country in the world has anything remotely close to this.
Secretary, what does the road ahead look like from a military standpoint in the U.S. regarding Iran over the near term? Well,
we've achieved. Yeah, we've achieved our objective. Our objective was to severely degrade and or destroy 3 nuclear sites inside of Iran. One of them had 60% enriched uranium, 60%. Remember, you only need like 3.67% for a nuclear power plant. You only need 20% enriched, very small quantities for like medical isotopes and that kind of thing. The only countries in the world that have anything close to 60% enriched uranium are countries that have nuclear weapons. They have stored 60% enriched uranium in one facility there called Esfahan. They were threatening to create even more of it. And then they had all these centrifuges that were capable of enriching up to weapons grade at 90%, buried in mountains, I know, but it's all for peaceful purposes. Give me a break. Everybody gets it. Unfortunately, they've been able to get away with that game for a long time. Those were the objectives last night. We hit 3 nuclear-related sites controlled by the Iranian regime. And now what happens next will depend on what Iran does next and the regime does next. If they attack us, it would be a terrible mistake on their part. They are completely vulnerable. They don't control their own airspace. They can't protect their own airspace. They can't even protect their own leaders. So I think it would be a big mistake if they did anything against us. But look, they'll have to make that decision, and the president will respond accordingly and decisively. But no one after last night should be under any illusions. When Donald Trump says he's going to do something, when the president says this president says he's going to do something, he's not just wasting words. He means it.
So Was it fair to say they were 1 week away from having a nuclear weapon? And is that all destroyed at this point? Is that gone?
I think it's fair to say they have everything you need to make a nuclear weapon, everything. They have the enrichment capability. They have highly enriched uranium in sufficient quantities to make at least 9 or 10 bombs. All they have to do is spend a couple days enriching it from 60 to 90%. We're certain they have a weapons design. They have mid-range missiles. They have short-range missiles that they could put warheads on. And by the way, they claim to have a space program. It's not a space program. Iran's not going to the moon. They have a space program because they're trying to develop ICBMs, long-range rockets that could one day reach the United States the way North Korea can already reach the United States with their ICBMs. That's what they're working on. They have all the pieces in place to have a nuclear weapon. All that's missing is flipping the switch. But in terms of all things you need, all the structures, all the science, all of that, they had it all in place. Now, not so much. And that's why we did the world a great favor, or we would all wake up one day in less than a decade in a world where radical Shia clerics control nuclear weapons capable of reaching not just the Middle East, but all of Europe and potentially the east coast of the United States. That is an unacceptable risk. There's no way we were leaving that for future generations.
Secretary, final question here. Do you expect Iran to move to close the Strait of Hormuz to try to disrupt oil transportation across the world?
Well, I encourage the Chinese government in Beijing to call them about that because they heavily depend on the Straits of Hormuz for their oil. If they do that, it'll be another terrible mistake. It's economic suicide for them if they do it. And we retain options to deal with that. But other countries should be looking at that as well. It would hurt other countries' economies a lot worse than ours. It would be, I think, a massive escalation that would merit a response, not just by us, but from others. So, look, they're going to say what they need to say. You know, these are the things that need to happen for their own internal politics and so forth. But in the end, we're going to judge them by the actions that they take moving forward. We had 3 objectives. We struck those 3 objectives with decisive force. And that was the point of this mission. And that's what we achieved. What happens next will depend on what they do. They want to negotiate. We're ready to negotiate. They want to get cute and do things that are dangerous. We have responses available that are devastating.
Secretary, was China complicit? We know that jets flew into Iran. We don't know what were on those jets.
No, we don't have any evidence that the Chinese were involved in anything other than perhaps trying to get Chinese nationals out of Iran.
Okay. Secretary, thank you very much for joining us.
All right, so that was Marco Rubio, Secretary of State of the United States. Now let's go to Dmitry Medvedev, who is Deputy Chairman of the Security Council of the Russian Federation. An article from about 2 days ago from TASS, in which Medvedev says, this is from the 21st of June, he says, both Israel and Iran should abandon their nuclear programs. So let's read this. Moscow, June 21st, Israel and Iran should both give up their nuclear programs, Russian Security Council Deputy Chairman Dmitry Medvedev said, quoting him, does Iran have nuclear weapons? We don't know, but we know, I think they know. I think they know if they have or they don't have. I think they know very well. It's just here playing games, you know, like this is the politics, everyone. Does Iran have nuclear weapons? We don't know. But we know that Israel has a secret nuclear program. Well, let them both renounce such programs under the supervision of the UN Security Council and the IAFA, the politician wrote. So this is the article. Now, the latest is his reaction to those 3 nuclear facilities being bombed. That's how you say it, attacked by United States. Let me find it, everyone, one moment. Here is Dmitry Medvedev. He says this, what have the Americans accomplished with their nighttime strikes on 3 nuclear sites in Iran? First, critical infrastructure of the nuclear fuel cycle appears to have been unaffected or sustain only minor damage. Let's go to the next slide. Second, the enrichment of nuclear material, and now we can say it outright, the future production of nuclear weapons will continue. How do they know this? That's my question here, very genuine question. A number of countries are ready to directly supply Iran with their own nuclear warheads. But why would they do that? That's also my question. Number 4, Israel is under attack. Explosions are rocking the country and people are panicking. Number 5, the US is now entangled in a new conflict with prospects of a ground operation looming on the horizon. There are more here? Yes. 6th, Iran's political regime has survived and in all likelihood has come out even stronger. I'm not sure about this. Again, I'm not there. I don't know, because as there are people protesting against United States and the attack, there are also people apparently celebrating what took place. Number 7, the people are rallying around the country's spiritual leadership, including those who were previously indifferent or opposed to it. And is there more? Yes. Donald Trump, once hailed as president of peace, has now pushed the US into another war. 9, the vast majority of countries around the world oppose the actions of Israel and the United States. One more time, this vast majority of countries around the world oppose the action of Israel and the United States. I will show you the map of Europe in a second, how apparently the countries feel about it. And I think this is it. The last point, number 10. At this rate, Trump can forget about the Nobel Peace Prize, not even with how rigged it has become. What a way to kick things off, Mr. President. Congratulations. So this is from Dmitry Medvedev. Now, let me take you to a map. I don't know how true and accurate is this, but let's take a look at this one. How the European states align as far as this conflict. We don't need the sound for this. So this map is going to show you pro-Israel is blue and pro-Iran is red, and you have the scale here. And as this map goes, it shows you what is the side the countries are taking, okay? So I would like to ask those of you who live in those countries, but again, you know, this is the governments that are really, most of those governments are being run by the small group of people that does not belong to any nation, really. But let me ask you, what do you think about this map? Let me stop it here because it reached the full scale. What do you think? Is this accurate? Because what Rubio just said, he said that even France was opposing what Iran was doing. And it looks like France is kind of leaning towards Iran. This is interesting, interesting map. I'm not sure how accurate it is. All right. The last clip that I have for you guys is again from Instagram. And this is it's an interview, a short interview on the street with one of American citizens. And I would like you to take a listen to it because it presents also the situation and explains the opinion of this person, as I think the opinion a lot of people might share as well. So let me play this video. Just mute myself.
The United States getting into the war with Iran?
No, not a chance.
What do you think should happen?
Precision strikes, just precision strikes, get rid of any ability for them to have a nuclear weapon, but no boots on the ground, never again. Countries like Iran, you can't allow them to obtain any sort of a high enriched uranium to make a weapon. If they want to have nuclear energy, that's another thing, but highly enriched uranium isn't meant for nuclear energy. That's only meant for one purpose and one purpose only, and that's to make a bomb.
How dangerous are these people over there in those parts of the world?
The people of Iran are great people. If you look at Iran in the 70s and the 80s, it was very much like any other country, first world country. But with the Ayatollah and with the extremists, taking away women's rights and education. They went backwards instead of forward. They damned themselves a little bit. The people are fine. It's their leadership that needs an adjustment.
And should the United States go after that nuclear weapon that they are apparently building?
1,000%. Yeah.
You would support them going into the war?
Yeah, I would. It wouldn't be a war, so it's not a war.
Yeah, so say they did enter into this war, how long would you think this would last? Do you think it'd be one missile, one bomb, and it's over?
I think, well, it's never just one bomb. I think if you're looking at, it'd be a tiered precision strike, so it'd happen in phases, but it wouldn't be something like Bush's, coin fight, the counterinsurgency fight with Iraq, Afghanistan for 20 plus years. It wouldn't be a continuation of that. I think Trump would live up to his word of it being just, hey, we're just going to strike this and that's that. I don't like the fact that we have to get involved in stuff like this, but when you have a country like Iran who potentially they're working diligently to try and get a bomb, that's scary. That should be scary for any American or anyone in the Western world.
Would you support the United States getting into the war with Iran?
No, not a chance.
What do you think should happen?
Precision strike.
All right, everyone, that's all I prepared for you today. The summary from me is this. I will just ask myself a simple question. Do I trust Israel? No. Do I trust Iran? No. I just leave you with that. Thank you so much for watching. If you appreciate the video and the content I provided, maybe even if you don't agree with me, but you still appreciate the video, hit the thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And you can leave the comments down below and let me know. Also, if you choose to support my work, please join me on Patreon. It really helps me a lot. It keeps me going, as well as you can become the member of this channel or join my locals community. You have PayPal link to donate as well if you feel like that's what you should do, what you like to do. And if you have Instagram, follow me there. It's AniaK_44. And that's it, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Lots of love. And remember, we are the leading edge and we are saving humanity. Bye, everyone.